You have to earn the right to ask, but your success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that you make in your life. Why don't we ask? Two reasons. One is fear. The other is rejection, sometimes confused as fear of rejection, right? Like that's all that exists. Like we build these little stories in our head that what we end up doing is we don't believe that we are worth it. So what should you be asking before you ask? You should be asking questions that lead you towards certainty of the fact that you believe you're worth it.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We're going to be talking a lot about wealth today. We have a very special guest. He is a master of influence and persuasion and the author of 7 best-selling books, including the one I am re-listening to right now, Exactly What to Say, The Magic Words for Influence and Impact, the one and only Phil M. Jones. Phil, what do you want the listeners to know about you before we get into this interview?
What do I want them to know? Yikes. I want them to know everything. My entire backstory from the moment I was born, every impactful moment that happened in my life so they know who they were talking to. But we ain't got time for that. So if they need to know one thing, if they're trying to place the accent, I'm originally from the UK, but now spend the bulk of my time living in the US. So I sound like I have a very weird accent that is difficult to place, but I'm from just outside London. That's all they need to know.
Perfect. I was in my research, I didn't realize this about you when I first started listening to your books. You got into sales and business when you were 14 years old. Can you just talk a little bit about that? And then we'll just hammer you with some questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I did start my first business at 14 years of age. I started just knocking on the doors of my neighbors and asking them kind of politely whether they wanted their cars cleaned. And some said yes, a few said no. Most just asked me how much money I would charge, which I pretty quickly realized meant that they were fairly interested in my offer, providing my prices were fair. And I did okay with that little car cleaning business, so much so that by the age of 15, I didn't go to school quite as often as I should. And I remember being invited in by my teachers saying, Phil, why don't you come to class? To which I'd respond with a question, which was, how much money are you making, sir? And the school teachers refused to tell me at the time, but my little car cleaning business at 15 years of age was delivering me, £3,000-4,000 pounds a month, around, $6,000-8,000 at the time. So it was a fairly nice little business through my teens, and I've been building businesses since that point. I've run some fairly prolific careers as well in the retail space, and since 2008, I've been helping other people demystify language, maybe add some more integrity to the world of sales and salesmanship, and look to see what we can do to make other people's train sets run faster rather than the ones I build for myself.
Phil, what is a common, you've been in sales and business for a long time. For me, I started this at 25 and really had to learn and got to learn a lot about business and sales. What is the most common misconception about sales that you come across when you're working with people, or people say like, hey, Phil, how do I do this? Like, what are people asking about?
It's hard to say there are common places because I've trained over 2 million sales professionals in over 800 different industries. But if there are some patterns and themes that run on through, is people are looking for the easy button. What they're looking for is like, hey, what's the quick win? How do I find the secret? And the answer lies in the fact of what selling really is. Selling is simply earning the right to make a recommendation. That's my definition of what selling is. And what that means is that you should never, ever, 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 ever invite anybody to do anything, buy anything, act in any way, unless you've done the work to be able to say these words first. And the words you should look to say first are the words because of the fact that you said. Because of the fact that you said X, Y, and Z, then for those reasons, my recommendation is A, B, and C. And it's that relentless curiosity to solve other people's problems with certainty that is the missing gap within salesmanship. And what too many people look towards is they want to be able to embellish the thing. Like, how do I add so much value to the thing? How do I talk about the thing? How do I find ready-made customers? Yet the dictionary definition of what a salesperson is in my mind, not what selling is a professional mind maker-upper. People think the enemy of yes in sales is no, and it isn't. The enemy of yes in sales is maybe. Indecision is the enemy. It's people being stuck on the fence saying that I'm not sure what to do. And if somebody's not sure whether to buy your thing, your product, your service, your action or outcome, you failed at your job. If they've decided you're a wrong fit for the right reasons, it's easier to move on. So I think there's that there's also this scarcity mindset that exists around the world of business growth. Like there isn't enough. And we live in the world's best time for an entrepreneur. Like we have the entire global landscape to be able to serve. We have resource at our fingertips that is easier than ever has possibly existed. And the challenge that I bump into with many entrepreneurs is like, firstly, how much is enough? Not how do we get more? It's like, how much is enough? And this belief that they can't afford to lose an opportunity. When the reality of it is there's 100 new ones around the next door. So those are some of my commentaries around misconceptions, I guess. And let's have some fun with this just for a second and maybe reframe something out for our listeners. Kevin, I know you're here. I think Alan's here too as well. Is throw some words at me, some adjectives that would describe a stereotypical salesperson.
Well, we did this in the preamble a little bit. I would say sleazy comes across often.
Yeah.
Maybe pushy.
Okay.
Suggestive. Alan, you want to? Alan might have more positive ones than I do.
Well, I want stereotypical, and I wanted those answers that you came with, and here's why, right? Is if somebody used those words to describe you, or somebody saw that in you when they met you for the very first time, how would it make you feel?
Terrible. Not good.
Right? Yucky, icky, horrible, the worst. Now, what if I ask you not to describe a stereotypical salesperson, but now I ask you to describe a professional salesperson? Mm-hmm. What adjectives do you have for me now?
That's what my adjectives were going to be, honestly, which is like integrity, customer first, focus on service, trying to help. I think win-win. That's what really comes. Win-win. Yeah. Yeah. That kind of thing.
And if that sequence of words was used to describe you, how are you feeling about that by alternative?
Very good.
Like you're like, there I see on video now, like, yeah, I'm in on that. There are two tiny, massive lessons in that little example. And the first one is this, is that being a salesperson is not a bad thing. The perception of what a salesperson is the bad thing.
Right.
What does that mean? It means that if anybody ever says the words to you that you are a great salesperson, particularly a customer or a prospect, that is not a compliment. It means you've been caught trying to sell something to them. And they are looking to be able to applaud said sales skills, hence a backhanded compliment of the fact that you're being sleazy, you're being pushy, you're being obnoxious, you're being self-serving. What we're actually chasing is gratitude. Sign of a job well done from a sales professional's point of view is merely hearing the words thank you more often. So if you're looking to be able to get applause for your sales skills, if what you're looking to be able to do is to serve people in a way that they say thank you to you more often, then that's what being a professional in this environment is all about. I said, though, there was two tiny, massive lessons in that tiny exercise. The second is bigger, is in that exercise, I changed one word. And when I changed one word, you changed all the words. See, when I said stereotypical, Kevin reached for a list of adjectives, saw images in his mind's eye that were downright ugly, things that you wouldn't want to associate yourself with. When I swapped the word stereotypical to professional, you saw a completely different image in your mind's eye. So what do I take from that is if I change one word and you changed all the words, could it be possible in critical conversations that people are having where they're looking to be able to influence other people is those other people don't see what they're saying. They see something different. Mm-hmm. And it's the images that are created in other people's heads that impact their decision-making, that impact the outcomes, that impact their belief as to what somebody's integrity was or intention was, or whether they believe that somebody would help. So if we're looking to get masterful in the art of really influence across the board, whether it's leading people, leading change, leading somebody into buying your product, is understand that our skill lies in our ability to get other people to see things in their mind's eye.
Yeah. Super, super powerful. It's the consciousness. Phil, you mentioned something already that was fascinating. I was reading your book, Exactly What to Say, last night on my Kindle. And I've read it several times in the past as well. And it's on Audible, and it's one of my go-tos, genuinely. There's this myth, okay? There's this myth, and I don't want to call it a myth because I'm not 100% sure it is, but you know how people say like 90% of all communication has nothing to do with words or something like that?
Yeah, it's a misquoted study from Meridian, but
exactly.
Right, yeah.
Okay, can you go into that? Because I'm a absolute fascinated studier of oratory. I mean, Steve Jobs' 2005 Stanford address, MLK, JFK, I mean, Lincoln. I am literally studying oratory every single day.
Yep.
And I'm doing it every day. So, and I can tell that you also are. Even when you said tiny, massive, everyone's like, oh, tiny and massive. It's like, I know you did it on purpose. I see you.
Right.
So, okay, what is this misconception about most of communication? Words don't matter as much as we think they do. I think that's absolute crap, and I know you do too. Talk to us.
It is not absolute crap.
Okay.
It is a study that was done with a very small group of people for a very specific purpose, looking to be able to prove how impactful non-verbal communication was when it came to the impression it would make towards others. So what does it mean? It means things like inflection. It means things like tone of voice. It means like, yes, the choice of words that you be able to bring into things that then impact those bodily gestures. But the study wasn't saying that the only thing that matters is 7%. 7% isn't words and 93% is nonverbal. It was saying that when we look at it through this lens in this specific circumstances, this was the findings that we created from our studies. And people are like, ta-da, we can create all of this materials, all these training courses to tell people that it doesn't matter what you say. All that matters is how you posture. And like, how can that be true? Because even think about your relationship with your spouse or your kids or your best friends or somebody. I promise you, the words that leave your mouth can have like demonstrably negative consequences and can have positive outcomes too. We all know that to be true. So I think what I would encourage more people to be is curious, is don't take things on face value. If you've seen an Instagram post that says 93% of communication is nonverbal, learn the study. And don't take my scientific understanding of a 30, 40, 50 page report. Just Google it and read the report, and then you understand the facts. And I wish more people would be more curious as opposed to accept things on face values and lots of things in life. And the secret to success in how kids learn is they ask the question why 10 times, right? Is they don't just take dad's word for it or mum's word for it. They ask why 10 more times to find clarity. And we should do this more in life. And we should do this more when looking to help clients, is to get to the understanding of what is the impact of the impact of the impact? What is the value of the value of the value? Like, what are we really doing things for? And I think it can be helpful. I'll go back to that study piece again in a little bit more detail too, is that if I've trained 2 million sales professionals around the world, and the biggest difference between those that do good and those that do great isn't body language, positive attitude, product knowledge, isn't years of experience. It's in the moments that matter. They know exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to make it count. That's the difference between being pretty good and darn awesome. Like, to get from nowhere to in the game, learn your product, understand the steps, be prepared to work harder than anybody else, have the hustle, look to be able to learn from the people that have laid down things before you. But to get from the game to the podium, it's word choices. And I don't know anybody that has greater experience than me in knowing that to be true. Like, I literally do not know anybody that has worked with the quantity of diverse organizations in nations that I have. But I don't have the study. I just have like hundreds of case studies.
Phil, how did you find that out? How did you land on words as your, one thing, for lack of better phrasing, in your life? Like, obviously that's your through line and it's your brand, and I appreciate it very much. And it's definitely changed my life in a positive way. Like, just imagine, Kevin and I use that all the time. All the time. Our listeners are probably sick of saying it.
Alan does it to me. He's like, Kevin, just imagine we sell this out, and it's like, yes.
But here's the thing is, he's not doing it to you. He's doing it for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I told him that difference as well. It is when used with integrity, the ability to use right language for other people to visualize the point you're trying to make is of service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not of manipulation.
Yeah.
And there's a big difference between manipulation and influence, and that is integrity.
Yeah.
If you're doing something for your purpose and not involving the other person in it, you're a manipulator. Please stop it. Right. If you're doing something to be able to remove the friction in a new reality that you're asking somebody to understand, you're helpful. That is influence laced with integrity. So like, that is a factor. It is why are words my thing? is an accident, like many of our careers. I started this business as a sales training organization back in 2008. And I'd run 1-day workshops, 3-day workshops. I'd consult, I'd speak at events to be able to fill my workshops. I would then get invited into lots of environments that naturally found me where people wanted sales skills for non-sales people. That was the random niche that I fell into. So I was helping healthcare workers be more influential and persuasive towards getting outcomes. I was helping customer service representatives be more influential and persuasive to get outcomes, to be able to sell people on why this time was better than that time for an appointment. Like all the things that people don't class as sales, but we know are, that was where I cut my teeth in a sales training environment. Then what would happen is I would start to speak at bigger events, and the leave behinds in my trainings were always these little, well, just say that. And I called them magic words. And whether I was delivering a 45-minute keynote or delivering a 3-day program, there would always be this micro section where it was either magic words that would allow you to be able to do things because it simplified me being able to teach a principle. See, I could teach a principle that was this big and people are like, I don't get it until I give the example. So I'm like, well, why do I teach the principle and give the example? And what I could do is give the example so they understand the principle. So that's why I fast tracked from a training point of view and being able to give words, and they were the big leave behinds. What I then did is I produced a book in 2011 called Magic Words. It was an accidental book. It came from me running a training course for a telecommunications customer service division, where to support that training, I wrote a 2-page PDF called 17 Magic Words for Influence and Impact. It was a leave behind. It was a takeaway for that training course. 2 days later, I'm in a mastermind group. And in that mastermind group, we're talking about book publishing. Some of the other experts around the table were saying how hard it is to publish a book. And me and my big mouth says, it's not that hard. I could get it done in 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. And they said, well, put your money where your mouth is. And I did it. And I published Magic Words. It was quick and dirty. It was minimum viable product. It was out in the world and people kind of liked it. We put it out on a KDP promotion in 2011, did like 130,000 copies. We used it as lead capture in web pages. We used it as leave behinds or value adds with clients. We sold a few copies here and there as well. And it was a fun little, you think about the sprinkles on the top of the cupcake. That's what it was. It was my like little leave behind. You know, if you go to a great restaurant and you have a great meal, but the sauce, whew, that sauce was the stuff that you remember. That's what words were for me for quite some time. They were the special sauce. Then what's happened is because that kept getting more and more attention, and because big brands are then reaching out saying, hey, Phil, can you review our scripts? Can you look at our language around these things? Can you spend a day in our retention department to understand what we're saying? That's meaning that we are losing clients or that we're not able to be able to just get this giant breadth of experience and start to be able to reverse engineer puzzles around word choices by building question trees and by helping people understand what could be done there. So, and I love it. It's like making machines out of real life in real time. So it's now become a passion through accident. And exactly what to say was a 2-day stage performance on the back of Magic Words. I performed in a theater outside London back in 2013. That's where its name came from. The book was going to be Magic Words 2.0. That's what its working title was. And then I couldn't use Magic Words in the US because somebody else had taken it. So I flipped the name to exactly what to say and stumbled across a way better title, right?
What is up, you guys? My name is Gabby, and I just want to give a huge shout out to Kevin and Alan for the community that they have created and the mission that they are on over at Next Level University. Never in a million years did I think when I started listening to the Hyperconscious podcast 2 years ago that I would be as invested as I am today. But here we are 2 years later. I have done group coaching. I truly look forward to every single episode they drop, all of the things that they're teaching. And I am now doing one-on-one coaching with Alan to help level up in my business. And all I got to say about these guys across the board is they are true, genuine souls. They mean it when they say they are heart-driven, and they mean it when they say they are no BS. And I think that's probably my favorite part about them. They get rid of the fluff. They give you tactical tips and tricks to help you level up in your life, to help you make strides towards your goals. And they've created a community of like-minded people to lean on each other at every single stage of life. So guys, thank you from the bottom of my heart for the impact that you have made in my life. And I am so very excited to see the impact and the waves that you make from here on out.
So it has been accidentally organic with strategic intent at every opportunity that then's presented itself when that organic moment has taken me somewhere new. It's like, how do I use this? How do I ride it? And I call it just riding the horse the way it's facing. And too many people forget to do that in an entrepreneurial journey. Is they think they have to figure it all out at once, when what they can do is they can have an idea of where they want to go and then figure out the next step and see where they get to in the next step, and then see if that is keeping them moving towards that bigger term picture, and course correct at every step of the way, knowing you can only control the decisions on the way. You can't control the outcomes.
Powerful. Phil, I was on the treadmill this morning listening, and I was like, okay, what questions do I want to ask? And Alan and I don't have as many studies or as much context as you with humans. But one of the things I have seen time and time again, and I'm sure Alan has as well, I've seen two types of people. One type is really, really good at building relationships, not good at asking. Asking about their product or service. And then you have the flip side. I get this on LinkedIn all the time. Somebody I don't know who just hammers me a copy paste that never, from my perspective, is going to work. I want to help both sides, but I feel more pulled and heart driven to help the people who are really good at building relationships because they're really authentic, but they feel weird when they cross that barrier from I'm your friend to I want to help you with my product. What advice do you have to those people who struggle to ask for what they're worth?
Firstly, we all know the answer to this question, right? If you do not ask, you do not get what you do not receive, right? There isn't a human being on the planet that is seeing that as a mistruth. We take it one stage further, is your success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that you make in your life. Let's look how that often gets misinterpreted. People think that your success is directly related to the quantity of asks that you make in your life, forgetting that it's quantity of quality. Let's also remember another fact, is that prescription before diagnosis is malpractice. Imagine that, walking into a doctor's surgery. Doctor said you should try these pills. They're brilliant. They'll allow you to do things you could only dream of. You're like, what the heck? Whereas if the doctor sits you down, asks you a handful of questions, understands your symptoms, maybe runs a test or two, and then asks you to take the same pills, you're like, sure, thank you. So you have to earn the right to ask, but your success is in direct correlation to the quantity of quality asks that you make in your life. Why don't we ask? Two reasons. One is fear. The other is rejection, sometimes confused as fear of rejection, right? Like that's all that exists.
Wait, say that again. Sorry.
Fear, rejection, or fear of rejection.
Got it.
Which is sometimes confused as, as the same thing, but they're two different things.
Okay.
Fear is real. I see corporate trainers try and tell us it's not by making acronyms like false evidence appearing real. No, fear is a thing that we all live with. It's in our DNA. We are built to be scared. And the ability to live with fear is what allows us to be able to get to the other side, which is really looking at accepting worst case scenario. Like you accept if you jump out of an airplane with a parachute on your back and the parachute doesn't open, you're going to die. You just do enough research to understand how likely is it that this parachute is not going to open, and then you calculate the risks. And I think that's what we should look at from a fear point of view. What about the rejection piece, though? Is, answer yourself this as a listener back home. How many times have you been rejected by somebody in the last 7 days? Maybe in your home life, in your personal life. Like, hey, let's get this for dinner tonight. Like, no, thank you. Hey, next time we go on vacation, I'd love to go here. Are you kidding? Like, you wanted fun in the bedroom and they're like, not tonight, honey. I don't know what it is, but we get rejected week in, week out, day in, day out by people we truly care about, and we're fine with it. Doesn't stop us moving forward. Doesn't stop us asking for the things that we want. Doesn't stop us having another roll of the dice at some point in time in the future. Like, you knew chicken and broccoli was in your future when she said, like, I don't want Chinese food tonight. So you didn't give up on the dream of still being able to have Chinese food. You just knew it meant no, not tonight. And when it comes to rejection, people are never saying no to you. They're saying no to it. They're not even saying no to it. They're saying no to it right now. So let's pack that forward and maybe add another piece in. And everybody listening might want to write this down. If you're not convinced, you cannot convince. If you do not believe with absolute certainty that the sum of money you're asking somebody to pay for the service that you're going to provide for them is worth it to them, not worth it to them, then you have no right to ask for it. So you have to believe that the problem you're solving is bigger than the money you're asking, always. And a general rule of thumb that I try to have is, can I be worth 10 times my fee? Whatever that fee is that I'm asking for, can I deliver at least 10 times the outcome that I'm asking somebody to be able to spend on me? Here's how you do this, is you move the finish line. Don't care about the thing you're selling. Care about the difference that you're making. And if you get passionate about achieving that outcome, the transaction or the ask is just a natural step along the way. Give me an example of the types of businesses that the people that listen to this podcast run, and let's see if we can make it real about moving the finish line so they can get passionate about problem rather than the process.
I would say personal training, mindset coaching. Those are two pretty high ones.
Okay.
Real estate.
Okay. And let's take the real estate point, right? Like people get scared about asking for a 5% listing fee, a 6% listing fee, right? That is a fact. Let's take personal training. People are like, well, we're conditioned. They won't pay more than 45, 65, 95 for a session. Like we build these little stories in our head that what we end up doing is we don't believe that we are worth it. So what should you be asking before you ask? You should be asking questions that lead you towards certainty of the fact that you believe you're worth it. So let's just take, for example, the personal training business. What would be the questions that I'm asking towards that? Is I'll be asking questions like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you that you achieve these changes, both from your body and your mindset? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like this has to happen, and 1 being like it's kind of a nice to have, where are you at? Well, I'm like a 7. Huh. Well, that's interesting because we only work with people who are 8, 9s, and 10s. Like, if you don't really want this, chances are it isn't going to be worth it for either of us. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, well, let's have a conversation now about appetite and desire. See how we've moved the push-pull? Well, I'm a 9. Well, great. If you're a 9 and this really matters to you, I believe that with our program, we can achieve some fantastic results. What would be the consequences of you not achieving this? Well, if I don't achieve this, then, I'm going to lose confidence in my workplace. I'm going to have to buy a brand new wardrobe full of clothes. My wife won't find me attractive anymore. I'm going to have energy loss. Okay, and what else? Well, 3-4 years on from now, I guess I won't have the energy to be able to chase my kids around. My eldest will want to get on my back and I'll find it too hard. I'll ask her to stop, and I don't want to be that kind of dad. Oh, dang. So this has to happen? Yeah, I guess it does. Hey, answer me this. What is it about me and my work that makes you think that I'm the best fit for you when it comes to choosing a personal trainer? Zip it. Well, I love the results that you've achieved for others. I find from your content that you put out online that we are singing from the same kind of hymn sheet. I believe your before and after posters that you've shared about other people. I feel like these conversations are the kind of conversations we can have and repeat. I like the fact that you call me out on my BS. Okay. So you think this is the right kind of process? Yeah. Well, what else do you need to know before we get this thing moving forward? Well, they say, well, like, how much do you charge? You say a lot. See how that takes the sting out of things already.
Try not to smile, Phil, but I couldn't.
Perception. When you say a lot, yikes, this is like a $1,500 a session trainer. But you have to be able to create some form of anchoring. See, nobody's expensive. People are expensive compared to something.
Right.
So unless you can create a comparison, you can't build value. If I'm in a personal training business, what am I actually looking to build value against? Value against not doing the work, not achieving the outcome, and some form of ostentatious pricing around what somebody else could be charging for this. And providing they have confidence that I can deliver the outcome that has been predetermined between both of us, and I'm less than the crazy pricing, no brainer. And this is a skill. And what I'd encourage people to understand is get back to rookie mode in it. Don't think you have to be brilliant. You have to be curious. And if you want to do anything in your questioning, try and prove that you're not the girl or you're not the guy. Try and sell yourself as being the wrong option through questions. Be curious enough to be able to destroy the option of no as opposed to embellish the option of yes.
Oh, that's fire.
So
that's
powerful.
fire.
Phil, I want to respect your time. I know we had you for a half. We went over here. I want to make sure that we have time to for you to talk about what you have going on in the world. And honestly, Alan and I love exactly what to say, genuinely. Like, it's one of my favorite things. No BS, no fluff. It just gets right to it. So where can people find out more about you, Phil? Where can they find out about your work, and what's next for you, Phil?
PhilMJones.com is an encyclopedia of all the stuff that we're up to, have done, and will do. So that's a great place to be able to come start. If you want to join conversation, I'm Phil M. Jones UK on Instagram. I hang out a bit on LinkedIn. You won't find me on many of the other social profiles. I care so much about word choices is I published this book like 4 weeks ago, which is called The Magic of Words, which is for 2 to 8 year old kids to raise their level of consciousness about what leaves their mouth and how it impacts and influences other people. So I'm excited by that. We have a brand new version of Exactly What to Say that launches in May of 2022, which is an expanded, evolved edition that really is about creating mastery. It has the existing book in it, but it also has more in it as well. And there are challenges, and there are some more thought processes around the principles and where they come from to allow somebody to either find that as their first find, or somebody that's already experienced Exactly What to Say should be able to come back to it and find some more value. Plus, we're looking to spread the message even further. So 2022 is I'm building an army of certified guides that I'm going to personally train, consult, and coach towards them being able to add Exactly What to Say methodology towards their arsenal so that they can use it to be more successful in their coaching, training, consulting businesses.
I love it.
Phil, last question before you go. What about you never changed?
2 things is probably 3 things. One is relentless optimism. Like, I believe that everybody has the ability to do better, and I believe that tomorrow can be better than today. I believe that, and that's never changed since I was as far back as I remember. 2 is I know that I'll never get paid more money than I'm worth. So that's never changed. And what does that mean? It means I have to do the work to be worth more if I want to get paid more. And it means that I'm never afraid of hard work. Like, I'll do all the work before the work that nobody will ever see that will allow us to be able to perform brilliance in moments. So that would be a second thing. And the third is this relentless curiosity. I've never been in awe of anybody. I've never looked at anybody who's done anything that's better than I've done and said, wow. Instead, I've asked how. And it's that curiosity to be able to ask how have other people achieved levels of greatness in their life that I've learned to be able to fast track a career by borrowing brilliance from other people's experience. And in truth, that's no different than what you're doing right here, right now. Is the fact that you're at 700 plus podcast episodes, that you've had the commitment to be able to drive this from an idea through to a long-term reality. And now what you've done is you've amplified your own personal experience by borrowing the breadcrumbs of hundreds of others. It's just freaking clever.
We appreciate your breadcrumbs.
But it shortcuts success, because what we need to gain confidence is experience. And we were talking in the preamble before this conversation, is the thing that lots of people struggle with is confidence. You cannot have confidence before experience. If you have confidence before experience, you actually have arrogance.
Yeah,
that's what you actually have. That's not confidence. Confidence is that you know with a level of certainty how a thing is going to play out because you've been in these situations numerous times before. The only cheat to fast track experience is that you get a microdose of experience by borrowing other people's. And that can give you increased levels of confidence to help you reach confidence slightly quicker. So people listening into this, you're super smart too, because what you're doing is that you're picking up the breadcrumbs from other people's experience, which allow you to not have to live 20 years of difficult, complex conversations in hundreds of different industries, because you can get a fragment of my 20 plus years experience in this in 34 minutes of an interview. And maybe that little piece of my experience can help you fast track yours.
Phil, it's always a no if you don't ask. Can I ask one quick question?
You can.
One of the things that I love that you said is I'll never be paid more than I'm worth. I've heard so many people say, no, I charge this, I charge this, I charge this. And it's not because that's what they're worth. It's because that's what they were told to charge. What do you say to Alan and I have coached for free, and then we coached for $50 a week, and it was like leveling up. What do you say? Like, what is your approach when you go to somebody and say, hey, you're charging way too much. That's why you're not being successful.
Money is only one way of keeping score. Money is only one factor that goes into any form of trade or negotiation or deal making, right? It's only one of the factors. And when it comes to building fees around anything, you never want to be worse than your fee.
Yeah.
So let's take professional speaking, and I do a lot of consulting and coaching in this space just because of my position within the industry, is through National Speakers Association, through Speakers Roundtable, etc. Is I find myself being asked these questions a lot, and what you don't want to do is to be a $10,000 speaker, deliver a speech, and they say, well, she was pretty good, but for 10,000, I thought better. You'd be better off to being like, for $5,000, she freaking crushed it. And that your reputation is more important than your transactional success. So what I would always want to be able to do is, yes, I want to drive my fees, I want to drive my values, I want to get better, but you always need to be the right side of better than your fee. At any given point, you've got to be able to do that with confidence if you want a career. And I see lots of people find high fee paying careers like coaching, speaking, training, consulting in their 20s and 30s. And they destroy their chance of success from getting too greedy too quickly.
Yeah.
So that would be some of my thoughts around fee positioning. Yes, if you do not ask, you do not get. And yes, be brave sometimes. Yes, stretch. But something isn't your fee until you've been paid it at least 20 times. Right? It might be what you're asking for now. And that you've got written testimonials, written responses from the people that have paid that fee that said, I was happy with the fact that I paid that fee. So be good enough to know that that's what success looks like. Move the finish line, not to I got paid it, is that they were happy that they paid it.
That's fire. I'm
Phil,
so pumped about this iPhone I got. Yeah, that's the
Right?
thing. Literally. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, new AirPods worth every penny, right?
Every penny, best dollars ever. Oh my God. Yeah, exactly.
Phil, thank you so much. This genuinely, I think this was my favorite interview we've ever done, genuinely. And it's just different hearing an audiobook and then getting to chat with a person who is responsible for it. Phil, thank you so very much.
Great work. Invite me back someday. I'd love to come chat with you guys again.
Please.
We definitely will, Phil. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye for now.